So a California law requiring at least one woman to sit on corporate boards has been struck down by a judge. The law was expected to be struck down or stricken down, or however you want to say that past participle. A Los Angeles judge ruled that the landmark was unconstitutional, the landmark law. So Maureen Duffy Lewis, yes, another woman. This is what equality is. They giveth and they taketh. A judge with the Los Angeles County Superior Court ruled Friday that the Senate Bill 826 violates the Equal Protection Clause of California's Constitution. Passed in 2018, the law required public companies based in the state to have at least one woman on the board by the end of 2019. Just one. But of course, as happens around the country, there are a lot of conservative judicial groups. They are the ones behind things like our current Supreme Court. So a conservative legal group, Judicial Watch, had challenged the law, claiming it was illegal to use taxpayer funds to enforce a law that violates the Equal Protection Clause of the California Constitution by mandating a gender-based quota. The decision comes just over a month after another Los Angeles judge found that a California law mandating that corporations diversify their boards with members from certain racial, ethnic, or LGBT groups was unconstitutional as well. The corporate diversity legislation was a sequel to the law requiring women on corporate boards. The judge in the previous case ruled in favor of Judicial Watch and the same plaintiffs without holding a trial. So set it up, knocked it down. Dan, your thoughts on this, the illegality of having diversity or requiring a small amount of diversity on a corporate board?
Yeah, I think this is a really important lesson for the left, one of many, which is that the judicial system, the legal system, is not our friend. It is not, it is by definition, and I have a lot of leftist lawyer friends who would largely agree with me on this, but that's why they're lawyers. They're trying to change things around a little bit. But by definition, the judicial system and the legal system holds conservative frameworks. They take old laws, they use old laws as the principal way they make new laws and enforce new laws. And so in order to get new laws to be made, you have to actually work with the politicians in that case. And I understand why people kind of get sick of that, because having the Democrats do anything is pretty impossible, even at a state level, because they're just not listening to their constituents. And so you do other avenues, like pursuing it on the legal angle. But I saw this in a different space, in the, I can't say this word on YouTube, but like in a industry of a plant that is legal in most places, they tried to make it so that people of color could grow this plant and use it and actually benefit from the business of it. Mm-hmm. That law was struck down in California because California has an anti-affirmative action law that makes it so you can't make these special laws that give special benefits to groups that have been historically discriminated against. So to me, this legal ruling is absolutely no surprise. California seems like it's really liberal, but you can't do things like this a lot of times because of the affirmative action statute. But again, because the law is not meant to be progressive most of the time. It takes large movements and large social changes that we read about in history books and then ban those history books in Florida for this kind of change to happen.
I mean, and that's the interesting thing is like, it's the same thing, this kind of representation. And to be honest with you, like, look, corporate boards are not really the happiest places on earth. These are not places where good things generally happen. But that being said, they are important places. And so no one can make the argument to me, even if I'm a huge critic of capitalism / an anti-capitalist, that it's not important to have a certain amount of diversity representative of a population on these boards, and they are, again, publicly held. So I understand that it's like, okay, what are we doing here? It does seem a little bit like, we're getting specific quotas, but no, women, people of color, hell, lump them all into the marginalized category. It's a huge group of people, and the same with Congress, the same with our lawmakers. At what point are we having minority rule? If we're against minority rule in our democracy, we should be against minority rule in the corporate world as well, considering how much control corporations, like it or not, have over our everyday lives. So here you have this ruling. And again, I mean, affirmative action in California is legal, but I feel like the Judicial Watch is coming for it next. This is clearly, if you can do this on corporate boards, you could do this in universities. And of course, people try and try. Pretty much every couple of years to overturn any kind of efforts for affirmative action. I wanted to go to the results of the couple years that this actually was in effect in California. So according to research by the nonprofit 50/50 Women on Boards, the law achieved impressive results. So the number of board seats in California held by women has doubled since the law was enacted in 2018, which again, one woman qualifies as like meeting the standards. At that point in time, women only held 16% of board seats among California's public companies in the Russell 3000. As a result of the law, at least as of year-end 2021, women now occupy 32% of those seats, which is higher than the national average of 27. Overall, in terms of underrepresented groups, on corporate boards like this. So directors from underrepresented groups are 17% of board seats, up from 14% in 2020. Women of all races have made gains. They now account for 27%, as we just went into. So there's minimal, just minimal movement on that. But again, 17% of all underrepresented groups is still a lack of representation. And again, this is at a time when you have massive profits for corporations and essential workers, predominantly people of color and women specifically, who are being, denied their own labor rights every single day. So it's an interesting call. Again, I think Dan, you're right. If we can't get it done here in California, and knowing how conservative the judicial system is anyway, it is going to take a mass movement.
I will say one last point here, because I've always liked the way you do this. You just take it out of theory and like into real practice, right? So what they're actually saying is, we don't expect boards of companies to find qualified women to be on the boards. Right. That's a ridiculous statement. That's absolutely insane. These companies don't function without some of the smartest, most intelligent, hardworking women at these places. It makes all the sense in the world that they should have minimum one board seat, let alone how much it makes sense to be. That isn't happening, again, not because there's some like lack of highly qualified women. It's happening because of inherent sexism. I don't think you use the legal system to solve sexism and things like that. But I mean, we also have to use every avenue we can, because that's politics here.
Right, and if and when there is parity, right? Like white men will be like, straight white men will be like, this is oppression. You know what I mean? Again, the corporate world mirrors our political world. Like every time there's an attempt at equality, suddenly it feels like oppression. Why does equality feel like oppression to people in power? In what world? Why is it like, white men can't get jobs? There's a quota of one woman. They're not looking at my job application right. Like, come on.